All right, I call to order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. It is 6:30 p.m. Present this evening are Commissioners Ned Hecker, Lisa Malkiewicz, Pete Hristo, Michael Richards, Jake Pearson, Michael Henry, and myself, Maren Patterson. I'm the chair. This is my last meeting, so thank you all for being here. No one is excused this meeting. From staff, we have Zachary Smallwood, David Rogers, Ruth Rurock, and Michael Richardson. Happy New Year. I was told we had to wish everyone a Happy New Year. We'd like to welcome the public. Thank you for attending our meeting. We are always grateful to have you here and participating in our community. Some etiquette items to review. We ask that you take a moment to silence your cell phones. When the time comes to make a comment on an agenda item, we would like you to come to the podium and speak into the microphone because this meeting is being recorded. We also ask that you state your name and address for the minutes. Once the item you are here for is over, you are welcome to leave. We just ask you to do so quietly so we can continue on with our remaining items. If you're viewing this meeting online on the live stream, the only way to make a public comment is to email planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. If you post a comment on the Facebook or YouTube, it will not be seen. So we will start with our agenda items. Agenda item number 1 is our approval of our December 5th, 2024 minutes. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
And we made some minor changes in the pre-meeting. So with those noted, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission approve the minutes on December 5th, 2024 with the changes we made in the pre-meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, wonderful. Motion passes. Agenda item number 2, conflicts of interest. Do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of our agenda items this evening?
No.
Neither do I. Item number 3, approval of findings of fact and conclusions. We have the commissioners had an opportunity to review the findings of fact and conclusions for a Serena Webb Dance Studio conditional use permit and Murray Zevix Park Lane subdivision amendment.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Chair will make a motion that we approve the findings of facts for the Serena Webb Dance Studio conditional use permit and Murray Zevix Park Lane subdivision amendment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then we will move on to agenda item number 4, a site plan review for Utah Woolen Mills. Is the applicant here this evening? Great. We'll first have a presentation from staff. To Ruth.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. So this is just an application for a site plan approval for an addition to the existing Utah Woolen Mills men's shop at 6100 South State Street. So here is the location of the site, just off of State Street and across from Fashion Place Mall. And the property is on a 0.4 acre site, and the addition will be 469 square feet. Here is the zoning around the property. It is Zone CD, our commercial zoning district, and most properties nearby are Zone CD except for the adjacent properties to the west, which are zoned residential. And the applicant has provided site and floor plans for the addition. Here is the existing site plan, and here is the proposed site plan. And you'll see that the proposed addition will be located on the front of the building, which faces 6100 South. And as shown on the floor plans, the addition will consist of a conference room, a storage room, and a patio area. And here's another layout of the floor plan. And the applicant has also provided elevations of the building, so you can see what the building will look like from the east, south, and west side of the building. And so for parking and access, the property can be accessed from 2 access points, which are circled in red, from 6100 South and from State Street. And for parking, the total required stalls is 19, and 40 have been provided. And so staff doesn't have any issues with parking. And 17 notices of this meeting was sent to the public, and staff hasn't received any comments. And so for our findings, based on the analysis of the application, materials submitted, site visits, and survey of the surrounding area, staff concludes that the proposed use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Murray City General Plan, and with conditions, the proposed plans meet the requirements of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. And so with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed addition for the property addressed at 6100 South State Street, subject to these 6 conditions. And happy to take any questions.
Okay, if there are no questions, we'll have the applicant come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
It's Eric Tiles, 1238 South 1500 East. That's in Salt Lake, 84105. And I have been approved to speak on behalf of Utah Woolen Mill.
Great, thank you for being here. Have you had an opportunity to review these 6 conditions?
I have.
And you'll be able to comply with those?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Is there any additional information you'd like to give the commission about this project?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, I will now open the meeting for public comment regarding this item. If you would like to make a public comment on this agenda item, you can do so at the podium. Please state your name and address into the microphone for the record before your comment, and try to keep your thoughts to 3 minutes. We ask that you offer new information in your comments. Please do not rehash already stated concerns. After the public comment portion of this meeting, we will address any questions or concerns with the applicant or staff. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? No? Okay. Do we receive any email comments?
Nope.
All right. I will close the public comment period and bring it back for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions about that. On the site plan, I think my questions are for the staff. On the site plan, it talks about a barber, there's a space for a barber shop or barber, and there's also space for a conference. I think we talked about it a little bit. The answer's pretty straightforward, but just want to make sure that the public knows we've thought about it and talked about it and looked at the application. I want to make sure that the barbershop and the conference room aren't suggesting other outside uses that would require additional license or additional discussion about parking.
Yeah, those services are just for the customers, and they'll operate the same hours as the entire retail shop.
All right, that satisfies my questions. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed addition to the UWM men's shop building for the property address 6100 South State Street, subject to the 6 conditions shown.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker. Is there a second?
Second?
First time.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Commissioner Malkovich. It's her last
And I
name.
didn't even get it all out.
Sorry.
We're laughing because
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker and a second by Commissioner Malkovich to grant site plan approval for the proposed addition to the UWM Men's Shop building for the property address 6100 South State Street, subject to the 6 conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we can take a vote.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes.
Hey,
Motion passes. Good luck with your project.
welcome to Murray.
Yeah, thank you for being here. All right, we will move on to agenda item 5 and 6 will be presented together. A zone plan or a general plan and zone map amendments. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, great. First, we'll have a presentation by David Rogers.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. So this is a future land use amendment and zoning map amendment for the property located at 6500 South, 1300 East. It is 0.69 acres. You can see here is an aerial view. This is the zoning, so it is currently zoned R18, and the properties surrounding it are zoned R18 with some general office and multifamily to the south. This is our future land use map, so it is currently labeled low-density residential, and the properties surrounding it are also that, with some office and multifamily or high-density residential located further south. So the low-density residential land use is intended for residential uses in established and planned neighborhoods, as well as low-density residential on former agricultural lands. The designation is Murray's most common pattern of single-dwelling development. It is intended for areas where urban public services, generally including complete local street networks and access to transit, are available or planned. Areas within this designation generally have few or very minor development constraints. Primary land use types include single-family dwelling, detached or attached residential, and the density range is between 1 to 8 units per acre. And the corresponding zones are listed below. It's our residential zones, and this one in particular is R18. So for the residential business, this designation allows for mixed-use attached dwellings or commercial development within primarily residential neighborhoods that is small in scale, has little impact, and provides services for the nearby residential and/or recreational areas. For example, the Jordan River Parkway node at Winchester or adjacent to Wheeler Farm. Development will be similar in scale to nearby residential development to promote compatibility with the surrounding area. This designation is intended for areas where public services are available or planned. Areas within this designation are generally small nodes or individual buildings along corridors rather than large centers or complexes. Non-residential or multi-dwelling development will follow a similar pattern of front yard setback landscaping as the surrounding residential context. And this is only our residential neighborhood business zone, which is what is being proposed tonight. So for our standards, the R18 zone, you can see the height is 35 feet. The R&B zone is actually more restrictive with height, with the standard being 20, but they can go up to 30 feet only with Planning Commission approval, conditional use permit. The front yard setback in the R18 is 25 feet. In the R&B zone, it's 20 feet. The rear yard setback is the same, 25 in R18, 20 in R&B. Side yard setbacks are 8 minimum, total of 20 in the R18, with just it being 8 feet in the R&B. Corner yard setbacks are identical, 20 feet. And then for parking, single-family residences are 2 spaces per dwelling, whereas the R&B is based on use, and that's determined when an application or a project comes in. So 91 notices of the public hearing for the requested amendments to the future land use map and zone map were sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property and to affected entities such as other municipalities, utility companies, and such. One inquiry about potential encroachments from Salt Lake City was received, and we have responded to that email. And an email regarding future construction plans has been received, which will be read into the record for this meeting. Staff also received a call asking questions about the zone. So findings, the general plan provides for flexibility in implementation and execution of the goals and policies based on different circumstances. Amending the future land use map of the general plan will allow for cohesion with neighboring residential uses. The proposed zone map from R18 to R&B has been considered based on the characteristics of the site and its surrounding area, and the potential impacts of the change can be managed within the uses allowed in the R&B zone. The proposed zone map amendment from R18 to R&B conforms to important goals and objectives of the 2017 Murray General Plan and will allow an appropriate development of the subject property. So these requests have been reviewed together in the staff reports, and the findings and conclusions apply to both recommendations from staff. But the Planning Commission must take actions individually. The 2 separate recommendations from staff are provided below, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question. Does the existing building on that site meet the R&B zoning regulations for setback and height?
I believe so. That was not specifically looked at as part of this application, but
It is a 2-story structure, correct? What is it?
it's just the one.
Is it one?
No, it has rooms, it has garages for the fire trucks and a room upstairs for the fire folks.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the living was up above. All right.
So can I just ask, this was included in our packet, and I felt like it was very helpful to give some context. That this lot was originally not developed within Murray City, but was part of the annexation that occurred in 2003. And when this area was annexed, the city staff looked at the zoning for the area and found the closest comparable available in city code. And so this meant that even though this lot was not a single-family use, it was included in an R18 zone as part of the annexation process. Do you think that if these had looked, instead of kind of just adding a code to it, if things were more carefully looked at, the future land use designation from before probably would not have been single-family use on this property.
That's correct.
The other thing that it also kind of states that I found very helpful was that there's only access to this property from 13th East, no inside of a single-family neighborhood connection to this property.
That's correct.
Okay, so it would be buffering maybe the residential houses around it, but only accessing from 13th East. So it wouldn't be going through neighborhoods, interrupting with traffic, anything like
Right,
that.
the only access is off of 1300 East.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? All right, if we could have the applicant come forward.
This is looking a little too tall for me, I don't know. Happy New Year. My name's John Kuchera. I live at 4580 Silver Springs Drive, number 300, Snyderville, Utah, 84098. And don't have anything to really add. Happy to answer any questions. We have our potential tenant here, but I think the staff report's very comprehensive.
Great. Any questions for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you for your time
very much.
and your service.
I just wonder, could you address really quickly? I know he says maybe potential business that might go here is here. Can you just talk about how we consider zoning without a project or a plan of what this could be used for?
Absolutely. So here in Murray City, our policy is that when a rezone is proposed, we need to look at that rezone holistically. So rather than looking at a potential project, we just want to look at the zone in its entirety to see what potentially could be there under any different circumstance and look at the rezone from that perspective rather than just focus on a potential project.
And the reason for that?
The reason for that is a rezone can go through and then anything can happen. A potential applicant might decide they don't want to do something anymore or something's no longer feasible. And so then they walk away, somebody else buys the property and develops something else that works under the zone but is different than what they originally proposed. So that's why we try to look at rezones as holistically as possible.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to public comment? All right. I would like to open this meeting for public comment regarding this item. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? No? Okay. I know we received some email comments.
Yes. So I have an email from Max Reese, who is the secretary of the Little Cottonwood Tanner Ditch Company, and the address is 977 East, 5600 South, Murray, Utah. So Murray City Council meeting, Planning Commission meeting, January 2nd, 2025. The Little Cottonwood Tanner Ditch Company, LCTDC, has been notified of the zoning map amendment is related to the property located at 6500 South, 1300 East. The LCTDC owns a ditch located at this address running along the entire length of the front of this property, running south to north. If there is ensuing construction at this property, the LCTDC will need to be involved for their approval, as construction could crush the existing pipe and that there will be continued access to the ditch and the 15-foot easement now present. The LCTDC would like to ask that this email be read into the minutes at the January 2nd, 2025 Murray City Planning Commission meeting. Thank you, Max Reese, Secretary, Little Cottonwood Tanner Ditch Company.
Did we receive any additional comments?
We have not.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a public comment? All right, then I will close the public comment period and bring it back for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair, I have to say I'm disappointed that family didn't take the opportunity to make a comment on your last meeting. You should have at least commented on how well she's running the meeting.
I think, part of the materials that were included in our packet shows a wider scope of 13th East. And you really do get the sense that there are very few properties here. I drive 13th East all the time. and that it is very similar to me in feeling to 9th East, which is where a lot of our R&B zoning has been put in, and along Winchester. And that those properties that face the busy corridor, as they are empty or need to be redeveloped, that the R&B has been a very successful way to protect the single-family neighborhood while having these properties be redeveloped in a way that looks and has the feel of a residential house. And I think, I mentioned this in the pre-meeting, but I think that in our next general plan, looking closely at these properties along this exact stretch, and maybe a little further north, a little further south, of what properties should be future land use planned as R&B, that would be a really good use and application of that zone. So when I'm considering this property in particular, especially with the canal next to it, some of those considerations, I feel like R&B is a really good use of this zone for this property. I don't know if others have additional thoughts to that or more discussion.
Just the nature of this property, it looks like it would be hard to develop as a residential property, but you don't want to just let it deteriorate.
Right,
either.
and languish.
Having it changed seems like to the residential, residential
Yeah.
neighborhood is the most logical.
And I feel like also when we talk about highest and best use of this property, I think that is one thing that this property maybe has struggled with, is how to redevelop it as it's currently zoned. But I also think, and we had an application at our last meeting, one part that is really tricky about Annex Murray is that some things have just had a blanket zone put to them, whereas in other parts of Murray, things have been very carefully looked at and rezoned and future zoned and things like that. So I think that, if we're looking at what was assigned to it when it was annexed in, I don't think that R18 would have been an appropriate zone for this property anyway. And so now maybe we're taking a step to kind of rectify that, get it to its highest and best use, and that hopefully in the next general plan, we can fix more of those annexed parts of Murray that maybe just had a blanket zone assigned to them. So unless there's any further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendments to the future land use map, redesignating the properties located at 6500 South, 1300 East from low-density residential to neighborhood business.
Is there a second
And
on
Madam
that?
Chair, I'd like to second that.
Okay. No fighting this time. Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker and a second by Commissioner Malkovich to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignating the properties located at 6500 South, 1300 East from low-density residential to neighborhood business. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we can take a vote.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. All right. I'll entertain a motion on our second request, I guess.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we recommend and approve the request to amend the Murray City zoning map, forwarding a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the properties located at 6500 South, 1300 East from R18 low-density single-family to RNB residential neighborhood business as described in the staff report.
Okay, yeah? Oh. I have a motion by Commissioner Hristo. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'd like to say I've had so much fun being on this commission. It's been a huge learning experience, great team to be part of. It's also been wonderful to learn what our community is built of. And it's been a privilege, and on my last action as a planning commissioner, I would like to second that motion.
Okay, I have a second by Commissioner Milkovich to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the properties located at 6500 South, 1300 East from R18 low-density single-family to RNB residential neighborhood business as described in the staff report. Is there any discussion on that motion? We can take a vote.
So before I do, I was just going to say, you should have not seconded it, and then I would have called your vote last. Oh, see? No, that's...
But now I've gone out as number 2.
There you go, there you go.
All night.
Yeah. All right, Commissioner Aristo.
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Richards.
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker.
I think this is a good zone for this area, particularly on 1300 East, pretty busy street, and I think it'll fit into the neighborhood well. So vote yes.
And Chair Patterson.
Yes. So motion is approved on both. As you saw, it will move forward to the City Council. So that means you will also be noticed about other future meetings. We encourage you to attend those as well. And the City Council will be voting on this and the future projects that are coming to this property now that it's rezoned. So you have many more opportunities to come and participate. So thank you all for being here. Is there any further business?
I just want to say from staff that we've appreciated Mr. Henry, Ms. Milkovich, Ms. Patterson on all your guys' dedication to this board, to the commission. You guys will be missed. And yeah, thank you guys so much for.
It's been an honor to serve. So thank you, everyone that I've served with.
Thank you.
It's been so great. One tiny correction. We noticed that you said the next meeting will be on January 19th. I think 16th is the next meeting. So
And
anyone that,
Yep, we will have one on the 16th, pretty small.
so no one come on the 19th.
No, that's a Sunday.
There will be no meeting. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'll break my second trend for the evening, and I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 6:57.
Is there a second? So moved. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.